we do really well at pitting people against each other, and I think it keeps people in this scarcity mindset rather than working together as a community and making sure that everyone's all right. We're actually keeping everybody, like, locking their doors, closing their blinds, you know what I mean? Whereas, like, if we all knew each other as neighbors, if we all talked to everybody, no matter what race, creed, economic position you were in, we could all probably feel really safe. You know what I mean? I have a feeling that, like, if you interact with your homeless community and, like, people of color communities and queer communities, that you guys can trust each other rather than, like, be fearful. Truly. So, like, these companies are talking about diversity and inclusion and how they have, like, these core values in their companies, and it's like, I'm not seeing that when their employees are on the streets. I'm not seeing that the way they purchase their homes. I'm not seeing that the way they don't rally for people of color being shot.
To what do we owe the land? To what do we owe each other? How do the generations of disconnect with the land and the people around us affect how we think about success, generosity, gratitude, and reciprocity? These are only some questions that come to mind the more I think about our detachment from the natural world. The natural world I'm referring to is our origin outside of agriculture, industry, and technology. The primary side of our humanity and our symbiotic connection with everything around us, plants, animals, the weather, the tides, and even stars. Asking why led me to read about the ancient indigenous ways of living. Books like Tending the Wild, Braiding Sweetgrass, and The Ohlone Way offered so much perspective on how far removed we are from our independence and interdependence with one another, and how similar we once were to the plant and animal world, which led me to learn about the detrimental effects of modern practices like monoculture and the benefits of permaculture and biodynamic organic farming, which led me to meet our next guest, Christopher Renfro. He introduced me to the philosophy behind the natural wine movement, a wine developed with much less process that goes back to more traditional and mindful methods without pesticides and additives. Chris is the founder of the 280Project, an organization, quote, dedicated to building a sustainable food and wine community that nourishes every member of the local economy and ecosystem, unquote. It began with his love and curiosity for learning about wine and implementing his knowledge into a community farm visible from the 280 freeway heading out of San Francisco. He is truly a man of the people. Outside of the 280 Project, he's cooked and served meals with Feed the People SF, an organization dedicated to feeding the unhoused and underserved communities in San Francisco. He has a unique entrepreneur's mindset. Not in the sense that we've all been accustomed to hearing living in Silicon Valley. You won't hear words like optimize, automate, or 10x. Chris is the voice of an entrepreneur willing to riff and rethink success by helping others along the way, spreading love and inspiring others. He asks challenging questions about how we can integrate, merge, and create new standards of what it means to be a prosperous community.
You got rich dudes that have billions of dollars figuring out how to fly rockets and stuff right now, but you know they're not talking about, like, food insecurity, and it's like no one on your team is telling you to back the fuck up and, like, think about food. Like, no one's telling you, like, yo, dude, you'd sell even more shit on Amazon if you saved the Amazon. You'd sell way more stuff if you, like, helped people. Maybe take homeless populations, get them in drug rehabilitation, and then use those people to, like, work in your factories. You know, and then help them have pilot programs to get housing. And you know what I mean? Like, that dude has the money. Jeff Bezos has the money for infrastructure to, like, bro, like, what do you need all that money for? Like, I mean, and that's what's crazy is, like, team up with Warren Buffett and have him run your stocks to where you never fucking miss money and it just compound interest until infinity, and you guys take care of people.
If I can be honest, some of the ideas we discussed, I felt deeply for, I still feel deeply for, yet at the same time, they seemed far-fetched to me at the time. But then something in the news reinforced that and materialized into what he hopes these wealthy CEOs and founders can do. kick back that endless surplus of money into something good for the world.
The stunning announcement from the founder of Patagonia, sharing that he's giving away the $3 billion company to help fight climate change.
It's extraordinary not only because of what he's doing, but how he's doing it. Most billionaires donate tiny slivers of their wealth while they're still living, but not the founder of Patagonia. He says his 2 adult children don't want the money, and he and his wife don't need it, so they're giving away the $3 billion company he founded a half-century ago.
So here we go. Atoms and particles are in motion. Part 1, castles, the outdoors, the whitewash stigma. Part 2, financial illiteracy, the underlying reality of food service, and his ambitions for the 280Project. In Part 3, rethinking the food industry models, the baseline of comfort. I hope you'll enjoy this genuinely inspiring conversation with a big spirit, a big blessing to San Francisco, and someone grounded and aligned with helping others be their best selves. Christopher Renfro. I know very little about wine, let's just say that. But what I do know about it, over the years, it's just become a little stagnant until I found out about the natural wine. So even the philosophy behind it is something that I've been more open to in recent years. You know, getting to know who you are and following you on social media, I feel like we have kind of similar paths. But as a second generation Filipino here in San Francisco, Daly City, a lot of the things that I've gotten into, especially connection with nature and connection with the land, are fairly new. And I feel like there's so many benefits to connection with the land. And I, just like you, had so many questions as to why not more people of color?
It's a big one.
Yeah. And so I've asked myself, why such a disconnect? Why has it taken so long? And I know people are out there making connections. But hopefully by the end of this conversation, I'd like to set the intention that we can help plant a seed in others to do the same thing. And it can only make the world better, right? And before we start, I just want to share a quote. And I saw that you had a copy of Tending the Wild on your Instagram feed, which is a book that I've just read recently that is very eye-opening to me and really dear to me. And the quote is, something essential happens in a vegetable garden. It's a place where if you can't say I love you out loud, you can say it in seeds, and the land will reciprocate in beans. So with that, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
As a person, you plant the seed with the message that you bring to people with your project. But before we get there, I'd like to get into what I heard about you in another interview, that you spent some time in Germany.
Yeah.
And what really stood out to me was just the juxtaposition of the idea that you had hours to run in your parent. Was it was it a farm or was it a?
So we lived near a military base. So, like on the military base, right next door was like this giant fence, and yeah, this giant fence. That's a border collie in the back. Everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, this fence that had like a hole in it, and there was a community center there. And this is in Schweinfurt, Germany, like in the 80s. But yeah, being in Germany, going to these fields was my way of escaping like the army base. Like I already understood back then that I didn't really rock with the military programming, the way that the other kids worked in the military. They all kind of conformed to the same ideas of American lifestyle being like it and being cool.
Right.
You know, so for me, like when I saw that hole in the fence, I was like, I'm going to go to where Mrs. Nazer showed me the fossils. I'm going to go to where like all the plants, all the corn, all the things that were growing, wheat and stuff like that, and like cows and like German people, and yeah, it was cool. It was like I could get to villages by breaking out of that fence pretty quickly.
And then also the fact that from an early age, you had this view of like churches and cathedrals and castles, mixed with your experiences trying to get away from that, right? Yeah. And so was it just the exposure to the energy on that U.S. base that mainly led you to those other places?
It's weird. It was like definitely being on the military bases felt more like confined, constrained. Like I said, like everybody. It's where I started seeing people making fun of each other at an early age and focusing on that stuff rather than being like open-minded and seeing as outdoors an unlimited resource. So when we lived off the military base. So like one of my apartments, we lived next to a giant forest, and I think I've told this story to a few people, but yeah, I would just basically like walk in there and get lost for as long as possible. Like I would go find as many animals, as many ponds as I could. And so, yeah, just being in the country kind of made me feel like a sense of freedom that nobody else had. Like their parents all had them on the army base. They were stuck there. They played only in like, to me now that I think about it, it was like kind of project housing in a sense, you know what I mean? Like they were all like, or an apartment complex, but they all were forced to be in these tiny little neighborhoods with like a playground. And, you know, for me, I was going like far, miles, riding my bike in thunderstorms, like going to German community center areas, like in their villages, but like just sneaking into places, playing basketball with random people, playing ping pong, like going to German delis, you know, like I knew how to use the money so I could like buy broochens, which are like a Kaiser roll. Yeah, all that kind of stuff, man. Like it made me realize at an early age that like I had freedom, you know? And but that was like weird because the juxtaposition that I witnessed back then was more about like the idea of what Black America was, even not even being in it all the time. Like I would only come back to America seeing it, and my family was in Louisiana, Texas and stuff. So, but it was more of like the boys in the hood time and menace to society.
Right.
So what I was watching was like that Black youth, especially men, were dangerous, and that we were like an enemy to each other, and that we were a target, and that police wanted to kill us, and there was a constant message of like, you'll never live to the age of 21. And for me, like being in Germany, I was like, well, there's no gangs here, and like, you know, I can like run outside, I can get lost, I can like, you know, it felt cool to be like nerdy.
Right.
It felt okay to be, you know what I mean? Not like nerdy in a sense, but like yeah, I still got in a lot of trouble, but it was outdoors, and like I didn't have like American cops shooting me or doing any weird stuff like is happening now, you know? Like I could kind of experiment. It was almost like having a white kid's experience.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
If anybody understands that, like I felt very safe, very protected, and I could do whatever I want, and all I had to do was say sorry.
Yeah. Was there, that's wild, because was there a Black community that you could bounce these ideas off of, that you were feeling or thinking on?
Nah, man. No. Like it was like me on my own, kind of. You know what I mean? Like I had like German friends on the outside where I lived.
Wow.
Like some Black kids, but I like really can't remember like one Black kid's name from Germany. I mean, I remember different apartment complexes and stuff that I lived in, and like El Paso, Texas and stuff. But like really in Germany, no. Like it was the babysitters that I remember, the like pretty German babysitters.
Yeah.
like those people. And like I remember this one girl that danced to like All I Want to Do Is a Zoom Zoom Zoom. Like,
right.
She danced during like a talent show, and I remember I had a crush on her like as a kid, and like going there with my mom, and that was that same community center next to the fence where I would like run into the country, into the field. So, but no, it was weird. It was like I didn't really resonate with Black culture other than like food, dancing, but I liked being like on my own tip. And I feel like I felt that since an early age, where I just always like to be on my own kind of in a sense, and I like to be doing my own thing. So yeah, it was interesting. Like my Black family was definitely a reminder of Blackness, you know?
Right.
Like, whenever I would come back to Louisiana, Texas, same thing. My mom hung out with a lot of Black people, but mixed people too. But yeah, it was cool. Lots of Black pictures in the houses and Black Panther sculptures and weird stuff like that. And, yeah.
When you were traveling back and forth from Germany to these places quite often?
Like at least like every year.
Yeah.
I would like make a visit
every year. Okay. So when you came back to these places, did you feel different at all, or did you feel that you couldn't relate in a certain way to some, or people couldn't relate to you being growing up outside?
Yeah, the transition of coming back to America as a Black youth was that moment where I said, like, you're never gonna live to 21. That kicked in real quick when I got back, like in certain places where I moved and stuff too. So visiting, of course, I would feel it a little bit. Going to Louisiana, my family like lived in like the 9th Ward, so there was a lot of poverty, but then also Black excellence at the same time, like in one area. So my cousins and I remember like being down there once, and we got chased by like a car full of Bloods with like Uzis, and my cousins were like Crips, and we had to hide in a Blockbuster and that kind of stuff. So it was like around. And then like same thing when I moved to Colorado. My mom lived in Aurora. We lived in Aurora, and she was she worked as a drug counselor type thing. And I remember the mall at that time, like early 90s, had like no colors, no baseball team hats. And this is way back in the day, man. So like active shootings all the time. And I saw people pull out guns. I saw lots of drugs around, all that kind of stuff. So immediately I was like thrown into this world of like, damn, like Blackness over here can sometimes mean survival. You know, and I think a lot of people would probably expect me to say like trouble and bad stuff, but like I see it as survival. I don't think anybody wanted to be in those positions. I don't think anybody felt like that's the life they wanted for themselves. It was kind of what was pitted on them. So I saw that, whereas I saw Black people, Black men, Black women in Germany driving BMWs legally, driving Mercedes, wearing Gucci, wearing nice stuff, you know what I mean? Legally. Like they weren't selling drugs, they worked in the military. Yeah. Or they had a job off-site and paid their bills and like stacked cash and like, you know what I mean? So when I came back to America, it seemed like there was already like Black people struggled over here, and there was like racism, and it was like at an early age that I was called like, you know, the N-word very early, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was weird coming back and forth. I definitely felt like a culture shock within my own culture. So I felt like I definitely needed to be around more Black youth. So I always tried to do that, but it was funny. Like I got told early that I spoke white, you know what I mean? But it's my family, you know what I mean? I come from a family that is very well spoken. They're all very highly intelligent, very sweet, nice people. So it's not like speaking white. It's like coming from a family that's well-to-do in a sense of like they try to do their best. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're not millionaires or anything, but they take themselves seriously and they like hold themselves high. And so being educated is something that's actually like not frowned upon in my family. Whereas I think coming back, like I witnessed that a lot of Black males make fun of themselves for higher education or speaking a certain way, which is another one of those tricks. You know what I mean? Like it's the freedom. It's like nobody wants to be in that position, but it's like all of a sudden we're pitted house Negro versus field Negro in a way that it's like, oh, bro, you speak too much like that. You're not tapped into the culture. And it's like, bro, I'm like in the culture, but also in the other people's culture. And I see that what they're doing over there. Like I understand what they're saying about us, and I understand the lingo, and I understand kind of how we can get out of this, you know? So it felt very much like, yo, just come skateboard, go hike, go fishing, guarantee it. Like there's other things you could be doing, you know?
I had those same kind of experiences growing up, where being Filipino in San Francisco, you would think that how do I say this? Like, the experience I had as a Filipino is very homogenous. I didn't have very many white friends growing up. I had maybe a few Latino friends growing up. Not very many Black friends growing up. but all the experiences we were feeling were through music and through movies. Especially from the Black experience, right? And so a lot of what we were going through was what you just said was like whitewashed, being called whitewashed. I mean, nobody knows what a Filipino is, so being called a beaner or whatever you look like, right?
But that feeling is so dangerous and harmful, man. And like, I can honestly say I felt it, man, like to my core, where it was like, wait, like really? Like we're getting, like I understood at an early age that I'm like, this is already such a harmful thing that like I'm just literally like you, and we are the same, and like we are being intentionally pitted against each other because white kids aren't really out there doing that to each other. I mean, they do. They make fun of each other. They call themselves gay or use the FAG word and stuff like that, like to pit themselves in this dominance. But we didn't have to be that, you know? So it's like following in line. And that's why I say survival.
Right.
You know what I mean? The whitewashing part is like survival. You know what I mean? Like as immigrants, I'm sure both sides, you know what I mean? Because Black people are immigrants also in this country. We want our kids to have a better lifestyle, a better upbringing, you know? So it's like, forget your native tongue sometimes. Sometimes it's like, dress a certain way, act a certain way, you know what I mean? Those kids are more successful. Don't you want to be like those kids? Don't you want to go to college and, you know what I mean, not work in a grocery store or not work in a field or, you know what I mean, a factory or anything, you know? It's like, but I think our parents try to do the best, but they don't understand that we understand they probably got treated that way too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Being like, who do you think you are talking like that? And buying a house in my neighborhood or dressing that way or liking Black music, you know? I actually literally was just at the golf course a couple of weeks ago and I met an awesome Filipino man that told me about how he owned a jewelry store on Powell Street.
Right.
Like in the 80s. And he had all the big rope chains and everything. And like he came over here and he told me about his whole struggles of how he had to learn English and how he had to like teach himself the jewelry business. But because of that, then he was able to take care of his entire family. And he gave the Black community all the dopest gold. He met like all the rappers, you know what I mean? And like he wasn't weird about it. He was like, I had the best time in the world owning this space. And like, you know what I mean? It was like one of those things where you could see like, he owned a business, but he didn't give up who he was, and instead he embraced other people of color that were, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, he didn't look down on anybody. He was more of like giving me golf tips, being like, yo, man, like, this is cool. You want to hear my story? You know what I mean? I was like, that's sick, bro. You know what I mean? You really came here and you like embraced who you were, didn't give up who you were. And like, he still talks with the accent, you know what I mean? And it's funny, like, it's weird when I see young Filipino kids in the city and I see them being treated, I feel like the Black people of Asian culture. It's weird to say that, but for real, I really mean that. I feel like most people don't see Filipinos as having their own place. And like, you know what I mean? Like we don't understand your food or like where you're from or your language is different. You're darker skinned, you know what I mean? Like you look so many different types of ways, like, you know what I mean? And it's like, Black people are hella different too, you know, but you want to like box everything into some simplistic, weird thing. And it's like, no, man, like you can't treat people that way.
Right. Boxing people in and categorizing and one person is representative of the whole culture or something like that.
And that's
right?
how whitewashing happens is because you literally just think of people one-dimensionally and then you say that when they stop being that one-dimensional way, then they are giving up their entire culture. And it's like, no, man, we're multifaceted. We come in all shapes, all sizes, all flavors. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just Bruno Mars. It's not just Michael Jackson. It's not just LeBron James's. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's weird. Like, being in San Francisco, I've been very thankful to actually see all the different shades of Asian, Black, Latin, white. You know what I mean? Like, all of us here have different cultures within our cultures.
Yes.
And I think we forget that. I think we all just see it for like race in a weird way. And it's like, no, man, like this is a city where if I was a kid growing up here, I'd be so thankful, because it's like you can literally go eat, and it's like traveling on an airplane around the world without having to go there.
Exactly, totally.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about, you know, with the medium of podcasting and even just talking to people. People are just planets into themselves. You have your own separate language and your own way of viewing the world and experiencing the world, and that's the only way I can feel like we can just dissolve those boundaries. It's just to have more discussions and share experiences, you know. But with that, you know, how old were you when you came to San Francisco?
When I moved to San Francisco, like 22, 23, something like that. Yeah, because I'm 39, yeah, so I've been here like 16 years. Yeah, like 23.
Wow, okay. Yeah. So what was the transition like? Where did you move from to San Francisco?
Yeah, I moved from Louisville, Kentucky to San Francisco like December 2006. I was originally going to move to New York, but yeah, decided on moving out here. I wanted to be in product design, industrial design. So that was like my goal, but like I basically came out here on vacation for a week. And I got an apartment, or I got a job the first hour I was off the airplane, like on vacation. I started working that same night. I got an apartment 4 days later while on vacation. I went back and got my stuff 2 weeks later, and then never left. Yeah, I've been here since then. So, I mean, it's been a while, man. It feels like this is where I'm supposed to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the transition was pretty easy for you, it sounded like?
Yeah,
maybe?
It was weird. It was like when I came out here, I kind of knew that this was where I wanted to be, like the culture. Like I said, like when I first moved here, I always explained to people that like when I got here, I saw lawyers being able to be married to like reggae drummers. You know what I mean? Like a neurosurgeon could be married to like, you know, like a politician but like an activist or something for like climate change. And, you know what I mean? Like people were just on different waves, and like, but all of those waves were interconnected, and there was mutual respect for everyone. And like people came here to actually pump culture and not extract it. They were like trying to make more of it. They were trying to make this a place of education, a place of care and love, and somewhere where like someone with AIDS could be treated with respect, not like harm. You know what I mean? Like when you think about this city, it was a very magical space where like creative thinking was like something that was praised. And I feel like it's becoming less and less a place of like creative culture and like happiness. It's more becoming like a purchasable thing. Wow. You know, like the city itself is a purchasable thing now, where I feel like people own the rights to neighborhoods. And like nobody talks about it that way, but it's like the money has gotten a little bit out of hand, and like we all need money to survive. But the way that it's been shifted and changing is like a lot of people can't keep up, so they don't have any buy-in on like what goes down in the city now. Yeah, I've watched it all shift. Yeah, same here. The class gaps. Is that the right term for it? Yeah, it's totally. But that's all an illusion.
Further.
Yeah, it's all an illusion, man. It's like just because you sit in front of a keyboard and like type, and you know, work for a computer, doesn't mean that you're better than other people. And that's what's sad, is like the philosophy of like, you know, a person who is the janitor for a doctor's office is just as important as the doctor. And it's like, why? Because they have a very important job. Like the doctor doesn't have time to do that, and the janitor doesn't necessarily know how to do what the doctor does, but working together and respecting each other, they're both valuable to each other, and they both help each other. And nobody has to look down on anyone's job or anyone's career. And like for the tech industry to come in and say that those skills are that much more valuable than a city worker or a grocery person or a restaurant person, kind of starts bringing in the ideas of like hierarchy and slave culture in a way. Even though these people are kind of slaves to Googles and different other companies, you know, they work for them. They don't own them. You know, even if they share stocks in them, they report to them. They're not, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, in a sense, we forget that say Google or something like that went out tomorrow, all those people that are working remotely and have cush lives, they'd be done.
Still, yeah.
They'd have to sell their properties. They'd have to do something, you know what I mean? If they didn't shift to another company that paid them that amount of money, like, so it's like basically we're like just living in a city right now where like comfort feels forever for some people.
Right.
But it's like, dude, look at how many people we've watched be displaced. And it's like, what's the next wealthy class that's going to kick the tech out if that happens?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if that happens, it's like, and it's funny, like, for me, I think that's why I talk so much shit, sorry to say, but, you know, I really want people to understand that, like, if our politicians and people that have the most money aren't actually doing the right thing by keeping folks in check mentally about how they see each other and how they interact with each other, then they're not doing a good job, you know what I mean? Like, I honestly don't mind calling out people and letting them know that, like, you have a obligation to make sure that these people don't get a little bit over themselves and thinking that they're able to walk over homeless people or hate on people of color or even spark AAPI type hate shit, man. It's like, it's unfair. It's like, you have to really be in the city to understand what's really going on. Like, how are people being treated? You know what I mean? How are, like, you know what I mean? When you treat communities of color poorly and make them feel like they don't have a place and that they can't even eat at the same spots as you, that's very close to the 1940s, 30s, like, you know what I mean? So then you say, those people are dangerous, you know what I mean? You start seeing people, like, not vibing with each other. It's like, stop creating that narrative that black people are bad. Stop saying that, like, Latin people, immigrants are bad, you know what I mean? It's like, everyone is an immigrant at some point, you know what I mean? Unless you're like indigenous, you know what I mean? Like, you're not from here, you know what I mean? You just still got to go back a little bit. But it's like, we do really well at pitting people against each other. And I think it keeps people in this scarcity mindset rather than working together as a community and making sure that everyone's all right. We're actually keeping everybody, like, locking their doors, closing their blinds, you know what I mean? Whereas, like, if we all knew each other as neighbors, if we all talked to everybody, no matter what race, creed, economic position you were in, we could all probably feel really safe. You know what I mean? I have a feeling that, like, if you interact with your homeless community and, like, people of color communities and queer communities, that you guys can trust each other rather than, like, be fearful. Truly. So, like, these companies are talking about diversity and inclusion and how they have, like, these core values in their companies, and it's like, I'm not seeing that when their employees are on the streets. I'm not seeing that the way they purchase their homes. I'm not seeing that the way they don't rally for people of color being shot or, you know what I mean, putting their money where their mouths are, you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
like, you're not supporting the black community unless you want to take it from them. Then you come in, gentrify it, put coffee shops in and steal it, and then forget about them and get the police to come do your work. You know what I mean? Like, you have to understand, I see this stuff. I'm not making it up. These are all things that, like, you know, Ed Lee started this by letting Twitter come in and giving tax breaks to, you know, Jack Dorsey, who I'm trying to figure out how to talk to, because I feel like it's talking to a person like that isn't all bad, but that sits on billions of dollars. It's like, yo, bro, put your money where your mouth is. How do we fix this? You know what I mean? Like, you have the infrastructure to give young black youth little square tablets and help them with the business model of how, instead of selling drugs or something on the street, they could be reselling their shoes. Right. They could be selling, like, t-shirts that they make and getting swipes. And, like, you know, as long as it's not $600, then it's tax, like, free kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, why are we not thinking about, instead of making pathways for people to, like, actually be okay, rather than incriminating them and being like, oh, look, black folks are stealing from the Louis Vuitton or Gucci store, and playing that over and over and over again on the news, and never asking on that same news channel, why would these people be in this position? It's like, you're posting this during Christmas when everybody's trying to keep up with the Joneses, you know, and these people have kids that go to school too, and they see your kids with an Oculus or a PlayStation 5 or all the Instagram ads and Amazon ads. Like, we still live in a real world where everybody has the same dollar value. They just don't make the same amount of dollars. And, like, it's what I'm saying. It's like, those jobs are no more important than what anyone else is doing in this city, but we've somehow let it get to this way. And it has created like a gang, like a tech gang, like a cliquey thing where they feel better than other people and don't give respect. And like, you know what I mean? When you can do that with your money and like not have to fuck with other people, that starts becoming very dangerous, where you don't want to talk to other people, where you don't want to sympathize because you feel like you're either different or you see someone as worse off, or you can't even start to understand how they could feel. That becomes very like irresponsible.
Yeah.
Because all it takes is a little bit of empathy and being like, man, how would I feel if I couldn't pay my bills every month? What if my Tesla like couldn't be charged? What if my condo like what if I couldn't pay my mortgage? You know what I mean? Like, what if I was laid off? Like,
wow.
You know what I mean? What if my kids didn't get into the school that I wanted them to? Then they had to go to another school, and then it wasn't on track with like them going to the college they wanted to. Oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, some people don't even have that choice at all. You know what I mean?
And it's also just a huge invalidation of the experience that other people go through. Like, it's almost like people don't realize that your place in life is not chosen. You know what I mean? It's like who you are even is not because of race. It's because of where you were born and the environment that contributed to And I'm starting to come to these kinds of concepts too. The more and more I read, the more and more even just working in the food service industry was a huge glimpse into humanity and just the differences that you see.
The way people treat each other in restaurants is a super good way to look at how people treat themselves in cities.
Is that most of your work experience? Does it come in food service?
I've worked in every type of job, you know what I mean? But like working in the restaurant industry and working like fine dining and kind of seeing how people respond and react to each other, it is very much reminds me of the big house on a plantation, and that everybody's coming for this like beautiful evening of luxury, and that like the server very much is similar to like the servants, and they come and, you know, instead of the meal just always being ready, which is like even the fine dining where you don't even come and talk about what it is, like it literally just comes out to you. But like a place with a menu is still kind of a little bit weird because you do have to interact with somebody. But then when people start posturing and treating people like they're below them, and it's like, wait, dude, all I'm doing is asking what you want to eat and what you would like to drink, and I'm here to actually make your experience awesome, which is weird because this isn't a theme park, but we'll make it that for the night. You know what I mean? So there's this like weird dynamic where people start snapping their fingers at people and like making jokes about people while they're in front of them, or just ignoring them completely. And you see all of these things kind of playing out in the actual everyday lives in businesses and streets stuff, like where people literally walk down the street and they don't make eye contact, they don't talk to people, they completely, like, it's weird. It's like, for me, I say hello to everybody on the street. I talk to everybody, as many people as I can. So when you see people that are in a restaurant setting that then don't talk to people outside, like once they're out, like, it's weird if you see a client or a guest on the other side and you're like, hey, and they're like, oh, hey, oh, and you're like, yeah, I'm still gonna talk to you, dude. Like, that's weird, right? Like, am I not supposed to talk to you? Like, yeah, I know how much you spent last night. Like, that's weird. That's crazy that you spent that on like a Wednesday night, you know? And your watch is way too expensive. And it's just funny. You start to see these things where the way they would talk to each other at tables and like show off and stuff like that too. But I think like the main point is like I've seen the inner workings of like the whole back of the house, which is brown people, usually from Mexico and places like that, where they can't represent themselves. They are working to probably pay someone off for helping them to get over here if they're not already legal. You know what I mean? I just feel like the restaurant industry takes advantage of people of color, you know, but like they don't use black people a lot of the time. And I had that glimpse too, where I was like, hey, we're having a problem retaining Latin workers right now because everyone's trying to overbid on them, and they understand that they have a little leverage right now. I was like, why don't you hire some black people for like the dish pits and stuff and let them work up? And then it was like, no, you know. And it's funny when I think about it, it's like, because you don't want people that are going to stand up for themselves, and you still inherently think that black people are thieves or something. That's weird. But more than anything, it's probably you're saying that you want to help Latin people out, but you don't want to help black people out in the city that need help too. Like, it's a dishwashing job. It's a prep job. It's like some of these people are literally coming over the border that have no type of training in anything, and they literally start working in kitchens. So it's like, you're gonna do that, but you know, like, so when I saw that kind of stuff too, it's just, I don't know. It's weird. Then you have hip hop music playing. You have all these things in like these white spaces where black people usually aren't even welcome in. You know, and it's like, but to have a great time, you're playing R&B and rap, and we're nowhere to be seen. You know.
Can I share something with you?
Yeah.
I used to work for a catering company, and we would do big ass parties for Google, like 3,000 and up. And I was like you know, the special prep guy, because I knew how to make pastas by hand and things like that. And this group of people, this labor workforce, all black, from Stockton.
Oh, that's sick.
Would come down, and I would train like a whole room full of people, like probably this big.
That's amazing.
And we would make raviolis by hand for fucking Google, right?
Yes, yeah.
So here's the thing. Is I used to work next to this old white guy. His dad was part of like this president from Johnson & Johnson or something.
Yeah.
And every day we would all be working in the same room. Like, hip hop music was playing. Kendrick Lamar was the jam at the time when he first came out. And everybody knew the words. I knew the words.
Yeah.
And this guy next to me was like, so how's Zynga doing today? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? The white guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, Zynga. He's like, Zynga, mate. He's like from Australia, like used to be from Australia or something. And he was like, you don't look at stocks? And I'm like, what the fuck is stocks?
Yeah, bro.
You know?
Yeah.
And this was in like my early 30s. And we would talk about this shit every day, prepping, and then, you know, rap music was playing. And after a while, I was like, why do we know the words while this guy is talking about stocks?
Yep.
And then he's talking about how he's helping his kids invest in stocks. And I'm like, how do you choose it?
Financial literacy, man.
They just fucking choose it. And I'm just like, why? Why don't we in this room, why is only one guy in this room know all this shit?
Yeah, why aren't you talking to everybody about this, bro?
Yeah. I mean, but why not? Why not? Why doesn't everybody know that? You know what I'm saying?
Well, and then, so that's the thing is like, that makes a great point. It's why I don't really care about sports.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't really care about people's scores or averages or RBIs. And
it's a distraction.
I mean? It's a fucking distraction. For me, I don't have time. And like, same thing, like I make music, but I don't remember a lot of people's like lyrics. Like, I love beats and stuff like that, and I listen to that, and I love melodies, but like for me, like remembering other people's lyrics is literally like doing work.
Yes.
Like, that to me is like taking up mental space. Like, I already have so many ideas of my own that like being in a club and reciting someone else's tracks is not like what I want to do. Right. You know what I mean? It's you know, to the imposter syndrome thing of being black, sometimes I've felt that, where I'm like, damn it, like everybody knows the songs in this room, but I'm like, I can't make myself do it.
Yeah.
And like, you know what I mean? I sit there and I think about it, and I'm like, how the fuck do you learn this? Like, how many times have you listened to this to learn this song? And like, I literally am the type of person, if I like a beat, I'll just listen to the song over on repeat. But I like still sometimes like just can't, like the lyrics don't lock down. So it's like, but you think about that, like for me, it's like my mind has gone more into like that white guy's frame of mind, where it's like talking about stocks, where it's talking about financial literacy, where it's talking about plants, where it's talking about all these things of like, how do I elevate myself to a place where it's like I can talk about all of it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is I feel comfortable going to a music studio and laying out tracks, recording my own stuff, doing everything, but then also educating young black men and people of color on how to like invest in like land and everything else. And like, you know what I mean? So it's like that all all-encompassing idea, you know what I mean? Where it's like that room felt split that you were talking about, where it's like one side was like, oh, no, I'm only talking about serious future stuff, and then over here it was like lighthearted and like, man, I love our culture. And it's like, damn, it's weird that we don't talk about like Black Wall Street more like that in rooms like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Black success, and like how, you know, that city at one time had like the most millionaires, I heard, like in the country at one point, you know what I mean? Like, and you start thinking about that, and it's like, we are kind of put in a position where we think we can only run fast, jump high, rap bars, you know what I mean, flex. But it's like, yo, take all those things and put them into the business aspect too. And then you still have all of it, you know what I mean? Instead of all the ARs that are like white, Jewish, whatever, you know, owning us, or the basketball coaches and like football coaches, why are we not in those spaces and doing everything, you know what I mean? Like, we've become like kind of like a commodity, you know what I mean? Like, we are consumers.
Right.
We're consumers instead of like the doers all the time, but we historically have been the doers. And a lot of our ideas have been stolen. A lot of our ideas have been taken and monetized, and we don't get credit for it. So it's like, when you take that part out of Black history, you are left with only Kendrick. You are left with only people that are speaking like this new gospel and trying to like inspire. You know what I mean? Like, what Kendrick does is really powerful, you know? And I think a lot of people downplay what rap music is.
Right.
But it's like very ancestral in a sense of like, we came from literally having nothing over here to still saving our rhythms, to saving our foodways, our cultures, while literally being raped and murdered and lynched. And so those young men rapping Kendrick from Stockton is just as powerful as Stocks, because they're holding on to something. They're still holding on to something that, like, think about, like, when you think about young Asian culture, how many of them know, like, old songs or oldies of their grandparents?
Not very many.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, luckily, like, the Asian community is getting another wave right now on their food, like, their food history.
Yes.
Like, they're getting to come back into, like, old sauces, like fish sauces, fermented foods. Like, but that's because white people have taken a liking to it. You know what I mean? They've tokenized it. White chefs have been like, oh yeah, I'll go over to an Asian country and I learned how to cook their food.
Right.
But like, you don't see that still that much in Black cuisine, and it's a touchy thing where it's like, you got Paula Deen and stuff like that getting like roasted, and people are like, oh, you're out here trying to cook our food but then calling us N-words and stuff. So it's like, it's a very touchy place. Whereas like, I feel like the Asian community is kind of like being treated as like soft or something weird, and like, oh no, it's cool, you guys like when we do this, and it's like, do we though? You know, so it's like, I feel like everybody's waking up into their own culture like right now, and like Black people are just, man, like, it's just starting to get somewhere. You see the movie Black Panther, you see things like that, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like all of it is why I really believe in like farming, and why I believe in community activism, and talking shit about like politics and just how we operate in our city. Yeah. You know what I mean? It may seem like this long drawn out conversation, but all of it is something I think about all the time, because it's like, if I can't be someone who is being honest about how it feels, then we're lost. Then we've honestly lost. If we don't feel uncomfortable about other people being well off while we're like being treated like enemies, like, then there's something wrong, you know what I mean? Like, our entire city, and this is like one thing that I keep wanting to like share with people, is like, we should kind of be trying to figure out how San Francisco could be known as like the dopest city in the world. Like, how could we make it the friendliest city in the world? Like, literally, how could we make it the city of the most care in the world? Like, what does that mean financially? What does that mean, like, love-wise? How do we teach elderly Asian people to, like, not be afraid of Black people? How do we teach young Black men to help an old Asian lady walk across the street? You know what I mean? That kind of shit. How do we, like, reinstill within our torn communities, like the dopeness and being like, yo, bro, go sample the old dude in Chinatown with the like that thing, like go fuck with him, go rock with him, like go eat some dumplings, go like do this, you know what I mean? Like, and then same thing, bring him some like collard greens or something. Like, how do we fix each other? Same thing, you know what I mean? Like, I think if we can start doing that, like everybody doing something nice in their community, but also like exploring, like for me, like I deadass wave at like as many old Asian people as I possibly can. And I've always done it because I want people to understand that like I like you, and no matter what's going on in the city, I want you to be able to trust me, and like I'll protect you, be nice. And it's like I would do that for anybody, you know what I mean? It's like I think we have to do that while the media and the news are like just pumping all this dangerous shit, this material of like hate everywhere. It's like, nah, man, there's a lot of people in this city that still live here because we like to actually like be around everyone. We're a village.
Yeah.
You know, so how do we represent our village as being like the dopest, most kind village? How do we have everyone feeling like they can be seen and be contributors to this type of situation? You know what I mean? Like, imagine if we were raising youth from this city that go out in the world and make every place they touch better, you know, and not having to extract to do it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Not having to like rip someone's culture down to make it a better place, you know?
Is that your inspiration for the 280 Project? Why you connect with wine in a sense?
Yeah, wine's just a vehicle. Like wine's literally just the vehicle, you know what I mean? Like for me, I love the education of grapes, agricultural products, and I think a lot of that goes back to just the land access. The land access, it goes back to like culinary foodways, the history, you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff, because when I do this thing, farming, you know, you have to buy seeds. You have to find land to grow it in. For me, like I like to hack systems and find cheaper ways to do things. So like seed saving or seed collecting, like you can go to a lot of Latin or Asian stores and find seeds that are actually just disguised as spices.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean? Like beans, things like that, different corn, different stuff. But you can put those in the ground and then they grown. And like you get 1,000 in a pack for $3.99 compared to like 20 in a pack for like $8.99.
Right.
You know, so it's like one of these things, and it's like, I don't see that for black people. I don't see the Caribbean store. I don't see the store in the Bayview that has black seeds that I could do the same thing, that has like authentic yams, that has, you know what I mean? Like all the things you can make from all the black cultures, you know what I mean? Like it shouldn't just be gumbo. It should be like Haitian food. It should be like, you know, all the different Caribbean islands. It should be like Black Brazil. It should be like, you know what I mean? The Maroons and different stuff like that, you know what I mean? Canary Islands in Spain, those were black people. Like all these different places that we've been, like we took food there and we had to survive. Like plantains, bananas, all these things, rice, were transferred to different spots to keep us alive as slaves. But we also were used to sell those products around the world, you know? So it's like when I think about like a black food store, I'm like, damn, dude, like when that happens, the culinary industry is gonna pop off, because we see how much of a huge leap the culinary industry and food networks and places like that took when when Asian and Latin foods were incorporated. Bobby Flay only cooks Latin food. Right. You know what I mean? Like there's so many like people that are like, it's like, yo, Bobby, like
there's other things.
Bro. But like, I don't know, something about it. He like wants to cook Southwestern food or something. But yeah, for me, it's like getting young black youth and brown youth and people of color, queer, trans folks to understand that like you shouldn't give up on your dreams of being outside and being attached to like land, even if you've never had that dream before. Like you're allowed to, you know what I mean? Like I think a lot of people forget that a lot of people don't feel safe being outside. That's true. Fishing, camping, being places like, you know what I mean? Like
you don't want to get dirty.
Well, they don't want to get dirty, and they also don't want to get raped or killed.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Sadly, there's a lot of creepy ass motherfuckers on the outside of the city, like, and that's not that far away.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, you literally go 20 minutes outside of the city, and you can start finding Confederate flags and weird stuff like that. And you know what I mean? You go Paso Robles. I went to Paso Robles like like last year, and like my daughter found KKK hoods in one of the vineyards as like they used them as their scarecrows.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it's like that kind of stuff, man. Like we still live in a country where like, and that's what I'm saying. Like for me, it's like I have to be the type of person that's loud because we have racist ass people out here that are pretending like that shit's normal. And it's like your old history like is not fucking cool anymore, and it never was cool, and nobody should accept it. And it's like the same thing with like abortion laws. Like the dudes that like stormed the Capitol January 6th, it's like, where were you for your ladies? You know? Like dead ass. What if they took male reproductive rights away and were like, you all have to get your balls snipped? Like, you know what I mean? You sat there and literally are making sure that women are unsafe. But it's like, you're not going to stand up for your wives and your daughters?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you're going to go say that somebody like had their election stolen, bro? Like, like that's weird. Like, I don't know. Like our priorities are like kind of only in defense mechanism time, where it's like everyone's just trying to hold on to like these narratives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, that's gotta go. Like we gotta really make sure that everyone has their cultural stories in a good way, like, and tell the bad parts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Tell all the parts. And that's why history has to be accurate, and like critical race theory isn't a bad thing. It's just like people are like trying to figure out a way to like get people to be like, hey, can we just learn history? Can we educate people? Can we talk about like who we are as like a human species? Can we talk about like what we've done to each other? You know what I mean? Like that's healing. You know what I mean? But nobody wants to be vulnerable. It's the people of color and the like marginalized populations that have to be the vulnerable and have to be the accepting. Always. It's always like the people that are being harmed that have to be the ones that are like, okay, thank you. I see that you're trying. And it's like,
right.
You know what I mean? But flip the script, man. Imagine if like, you know, people were wealthy all of a sudden and like reparations or something like that did happen. Like, how would people feel being like, I think that's what people are afraid of. They're afraid of seeing all the harm that's been done put on them. You know, like that's why people say like, I don't have anything to do with slavery, or I don't have anything to do with the way this is. It's like, if you work for a large corporation where you get to sit in front of your computer all day and never interact with people of color, or, you know what I mean, think about people not having a meal every time you eat, or when you walk outside and you look down at the ground, like, feel that. Like, sit there and sit with it and really think about it and be like, how many people of color have I talked to since I've lived in the city? Why don't I end up in spaces like that? Why is my friend group all made up of the same type of people that have the same amount of money? If I have the privilege of being around other people. Some people are forced to be in that position. But if you have the power to go into multiple neighborhoods safely and not feel afraid, you know what I mean? Like that's the funny part, is like most people with privilege actually can go anywhere. They're just acting like they're afraid. And it's like, being a person of color is actually more dangerous. Like, you're being followed by the police. People question you what you're doing in their stores. Like, they wonder if you have enough money to shop. They wonder if you have enough money to pay the bill. Like, all these types of things. But it's like, if people sat with these uncomfortable questions for a minute and were like, what could I do? It's like, make friends with people. That's what I'm saying. Like, Dolores Park used to be a vibe, man. It used to be really sick where, like, you know, marijuana, whatever, all these different things. People would drink rum and eat mushrooms and eat food and drink wine and beer and just talk, and music would be playing. And like, I remember that from when my mom was raising me as a kid in Denver, Colorado. Like, the lake was the scene, and all people would come, all different vibes of like all cultures would come and meet each other and hang out and listen to different types of music. And that's how people like rock with each other. You know what I mean? It's not competition. It's like you got to kind of look at it like a giant outside lands of people. Right. You know what I mean? Like a festival. Of people. Every day. It's like, that's the cool thing, is you can go from stage to stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's amazing what your project represents, that you're using wine as the vehicle to blast these ideas out there. But plus you also love wine, of course.
I love it.
From what I see and what resonates with me is that it represents, you know, wine is not something that is, you know, a fast thing. It's not like immediate gratification. You have to wait. You have to invest your time. You're collaborating with people. You're learning math, science, connection with the outdoors, history, humanity, community, right? Do you see that do you agree that most of these things are kind of against the grain of society right now? Everybody is kind of like in a hurry, in a rush, and people need to like slow down a little bit.
Oh, 100%, man. Me having a full-time job right now is like devastating my life. Like, I think that, you know, I'm making a lot of money for someone with my creative ideas selling to them. And what I realize is that if I was able to do it for myself, I would be able to have more time, because I wouldn't necessarily be focused on 8 hours in one place, you know, 5 days a week. That's a lot of time, you know what I mean? I think about those 8 hours never get to go directly into me, even though I use it to do that. Like, I make situations where any person that comes into my wine department, I sit there and I have meaningful conversations just like we're having, and I recommend things and I educate them on wine business practices and growing practices and fermentation practices, and you know what I mean? Just what does it mean to be in this space as a black man? Like, I have a duty to like represent it different than just being a sommelier of some sort, you know what I mean? Like, 'cause for me, when I think about sommelier, I think about it different than most people think about it. I think of sommeliers as probably being black people in the beginning, like people that were the silent servants at a fancy-ass table in some rich white person's house that had to make sure they didn't serve flawed wine or they'd get their asses whooped. You know what I mean? Like, when you think about plantations and stuff, I'm sure it wasn't like a white guy in there pouring wine. I'm sure it was a black person pouring wine. And I'm sure he had to be in the back of the kitchen being like, yo, taste this, smell this. What do you think? Is this right? You know what I mean? This is probably happening during like important documents that have solidified our country as the way it is. You know what I mean? Like, these people were probably in those rooms. So when I see myself as being the future of this, I'm like, yo, I got to represent these people and be seen. And I got to like be someone who is educated and someone who cares about a lot more other things. And I have to use my platform to talk. And we got to slow it down, man. We got to really engage with each other, and we got to really share each other's knowledge, and we got to like actually share each other's skill sets with each other, and be able to like, conversations should spark big, creative, awesome things happening, even just in small friend groups. You know what I mean? Like, that's what like think tanks are.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like, I think like even in this park right now, like, you just don't see people of color. You know what I mean? It's funny. It's like in Glen Park, there's a neighborhood in San Francisco. Well, there's a Latin lady pushing some white kids around. You know what I mean? Like, stuff like that.
Right.
But it's like, I don't see black people in this park. I don't see this space being open to people of color for like safety and community thinking. So like, me being in this neighborhood, working at this grocery store, you know, like, I think about it every time I'm in there, that I'm like, man, I have like the opportunity of a lifetime, even if I'm not getting paid well, to be able to like learn these skills that I can take this now into my community and give them the best service, give them the best knowledge, give them the best time. And eventually that's going to make other people interested in what I'm doing, you know? So like, I've been on a few wine trips recently, and it's great to be in like New York or Atlanta and have people of color come up to you and say, man, I really appreciate everything you're doing. And you know, because sometimes it gets really hard, like paying bills and being broke. But when people tell you that they really rock with what you're doing, I know the money is coming. I know that everything I need to make this my full-time job is going to actually happen soon. And then that's only going to be so much more impact, where like, you know what I mean? I really mean it when I say fishing and stuff like that. Like, I would love for one day to like 280 to be able to be this wine program that takes people around the world to, you know, expand upon like more into agriculture, into like agro-tourism, and being able to like take people on fishing trips to be able to hike and go places while we're in other countries and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people don't get to experience life fully. You know what I mean? Like, whether you eat meat or not, like, I think people should understand, like, how to take down, like, an animal, or, you know, how to butcher an animal, or how to, like, fillet a fish, or, you know what I mean? But how the whole process works, like, I have taught my daughters, like, how to fish from an early age, and, like, my friend, he sends me pictures every week of his son catching halibut right now, and he's like 15, 16, and the kid knows how to cast out nets, get live bait, and then use that live bait to catch halibut. That kid is able to take care of his family. He's like supplementing their food, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like with fresh food, and that's something that like young black kids, young Filipino kids, young Latin kids all need to understand how to do, because it's not necessarily always offered to us, you know what I mean? Like, once we understand that we can put our hands in the soil and grow food, we can eat that food. We can feed our communities. We can take care of them. Once we know how to fish, we understand how to take care of the waterways. We understand, like, the importance of not littering and throwing your cans into the water, and, like, you know what I mean? Like, once you're outside, you know, maybe you're smoking weed instead of cigarettes, but, like, you know what I mean? You're out and enjoying, like, your lungs, understanding fresh air. You know, all of these things are important, and it starts with something like food or a beverage. Like, you can literally talk about where wine comes from, and it starts to expand your mind on, like, everything you do in your life. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, literally, like, it starts with seeds or a cutting. It has to grow. It takes at least 3 years to produce fruit. You know, then it takes time for you to, like, have to crush that fruit. It has to ferment. It has to sit. You have to eventually bottle it. You know, like, legally you have to, like, register it and all this stuff. Licensing, you know what I mean? Labeling has to be, like, actually approved. Like, you know, you have to get distribution if you're not selling it on your own. Like, so it's a whole model of entrepreneurship that I think, and it's an agricultural model. It's a farming job. You know? It's a farming job, but it's also, it's freedom. At the end of the day, if I was a black finance guy or something like that, man, I'd be finding land. I'd be finding land with a good source of, like, water, or a way to figure out water, and I'd be figuring out how to, like, feed my family from it. And if I had a tech job or something like that, I'd be working remote, doing something like that on the weekends. You know what I mean? And have my kids in school, and, you know what I mean, bringing as many of my friends out to these places and being like, this is what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like a black bed and breakfast, you know what I mean? Like, that, like, has, and that's what I see 280 eventually being, is like this hub for this kind of mindset and lifestyle where, like, we can have co-op farms, you know what I mean, co-op businesses in the city that take care of the community, that are inspiring other people to create these also, you know what I mean? Like, I love seeing Filipino restaurants pop up, you know what I mean, of the younger generations, them doing it, you know what I mean? And, like, I want to see a young black person do the same thing. You know, what does that mean? Like, what does black food even look like now? You know what I mean? Is it going to have to be fried? Is it going to have to be, or is it going to be farm fresh with seasonality? You know what I mean? Depending on what part of the country they come from. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much history when you start thinking about, like, what does farm to table actually look like? What does it actually mean? You know what I mean? Most people don't understand how food starts in the ground and then gets to a table. You know?
Huge disconnect.
It's major. It's dangerous.
I think also what you're starting is, you know, maybe it'll take generations, maybe it'll happen in our lifetime, that this shift, mental shift, needs to happen where we do get connected back to our land and food network systems. And
it's coming. I feel it. I feel like it's only a few years out. I feel like sadly climate change is going to force it. I feel like once people understand how valuable water is, and how say food becomes scarce. Food and water becomes scarce. Food security is one of those things that, you know what I mean? Like, people don't realize the black community is living in every day, like in the Bayview or somewhere like Alamany Apartments. They don't have a grocery store that is, like, easily accessible. And everybody will say, like, Good Life Grocery up on Cortland, but it's like, do you think those people are really respectful to them? Do you think that that hike all the way up that hill is necessary to get food? Like, you know, so it's strange when people don't understand everyone's food situation in the city. And for me, I feel very thankful to work like in this sector of business in the world, because like I get to see people enjoy it with partying. I get to see people as low as getting food in pantries. You know what I mean? Like my friend Haley and I feeding the community once a month with Feed the People Collective. You know, like that is very important work that, you know, we have a mutual aid collective that we give away food to our communities, our Black and brown communities, because we need them to have nutritious food to feel inspired to keep going every day. You know what I mean? And they look forward to us feeding them, and we look forward to feeding them, because we're feeding each other. You know what I mean? Like the love and trust that we've gained from being able to walk through that community without having to think about it, and like friendship, and being able to inspire other people to want to like be just happy. Like that alone is like why people should be doing this kind of work. You know what I mean? Like if you can take care of, you should, like the easiest way to put it is like nobody should have to be making sure that people are fed in a way. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how to say that better, but like the problems that I'm trying to fix shouldn't be problems at all. Yeah. You know what I mean? You got rich, I understand. You got rich dudes that have billions of dollars figuring out how to fly rockets and stuff right now. But, you know, they're not talking about like food insecurity. And it's like no one on your team is telling you to back the fuck up and like think about food. Like no one's telling you like, yo, dude, you'd sell even more shit on Amazon if you saved the Amazon. You'd sell way more stuff if you like helped people. And you know what I mean? Like maybe take homeless populations, get them in drug rehabilitation, and then use those people to like work in your factories, you know, and then help them have pilot programs to get housing. And you know what I mean? Like that dude has the money, Jeff Bezos has the money for infrastructure to like, bro, like what do you need all that money for? Like, I mean, and that's what's crazy is like team up with Warren Buffett and have him run your stocks to where you never fucking miss money, and it just compound interest until infinity, and you guys take care of people. Like you telling me you two white guys can't get together and figure out how to like fix the food system, but you understand all these algorithms on how to keep making billions of dollars? Like, I don't know. That's why I want to be around these folks. I want to figure out how do I like tap in. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but shit, I'd put my time into that rather than flying to the fucking moon. Yeah. Like, what is the moon going to give me? You know what I mean? Unless they're not telling us something like the Earth's about to blow up or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
wow. Yeah, it's kind of like you're not believing in the future anymore, and you're just, all right, how can we invest in another place that we could fuck up or like
or build underground tunnels? Like Elon Musk having a company called the Boring Company. If you're bored, bro, do something else. Do something to help people. You know what I mean? Like, that'll take up a lot of your time. You know what I mean?
Beyond the, I wanted to ask you this too. Beyond the money aspect of carrying your project on forward and helping it evolve, is it the food and wine industry that you're trying to help people see value in, or is it just the skills that you gain from it?
Oh no, I definitely think it's. I believe in the food culinary industry. I think that like somewhere like Southeast Asia, even though I've never been, like seeing like the food like markets, like the night markets and stuff like that. Yes, I think like that concept in San Francisco, like for me, like the hot dog carts. You know what I mean? Like that business model, I'm like, dude, like if young black folks and all people of color just had like little permits like that, how sick would our city be if we could like just be slanging food like that, feeding each other? Like imagine if there was a healthy dude with a food cart like that coming through the projects. Yeah. Until there were no longer the projects, you know what I mean? But at least like if he could do that, and if he had the square thing from Jack Dorsey, and he can get the swipe even with the fucking EBT card, bam, bam. Bro, it's the systems. Like if we could change these systems, you know what I mean? Like I would gladly open up a sandwich shop in the Excelsior that accepted EBT. Like just make that come into real money into my account, and like, bow. Yeah, like, that's fine. Like I don't care where it comes from. I want to feed people. Right. You know what I mean? Like, but it's also sliding scale ideas like that. Like how can restaurants change their business models? Like instead of just pooled housing for tips and stuff like that, why don't you just pay your workers more? You know what I mean? Like, actually talk about the margins of what a restaurant makes. And if you're not making that much money, why'd you even start? Like, what are we doing? Are we playing? Like, is it for fame?
Right.
Is it for, like, why are you taking millions of dollars to build buildings and, like, these kitchens out and these beautiful spaces if it isn't lucrative? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wait, maybe we need to change the model.
Right.
Maybe we need to think about, like, what are we actually doing? You know what I mean? Grocery stores too. You know what I mean? Like, I would love to see a black grocery store actually be built in the Bayview as a co-op. You know what I mean? I would love to see people in that neighborhood learn to be able to feed their own community by being paid to be owners.
Right.
And the city has the money to put that totally into building a motherfucking grocery store, man. It's like, for some reason, we're acting like there isn't that kind of money, but there's hella bread, dude, like just sitting around. And there's already established grocery stores that are just serving horrible quality food.
Right.
Buy those people out. Let someone like myself and a team come in and actually build the structure. And like some of these top restaurant people that understand systems and shit like that, instead of being a GM at a top like restaurant in the city, come in, help me build that kind of thing. And then go back to what you're doing. You know what I mean? But like, train these people up right to where we can like run service and, you know what I mean? Like, buy right. Like, buy right. Fuck with me. Like, why don't we go build a thing in the community? You don't have any stake in it.
Yeah.
You just build it for them and help them and like train them.
Cool.
And then let them run it.
Yeah.
And then put all that money back into their own community. So I see a lot of value in the food and like beverage space. I think that there's just, we all have to eat and drink.
Yeah.
So why are we not making money off of it? And why are we not like...
I have the same question, Chris. I mean, I used to be a food entrepreneur with my family. And, you know, me being the spearhead of it, I felt personally guilty that that they couldn't be paid what I wanted to pay them.
Yeah.
But as such, I gave them as much as I could.
Yeah.
And as a result, the business rarely made money, but we generated a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? So when you ask, how can we rethink the business model of a restaurant and a grocery store, I'm like all about that. But
dude, I think it's partnerships. It's another one of those things that I think in the Black and brown communities we don't have enough training in, and we don't have enough allies.
Yes.
So for me, I see something like I see the idea of collaboration as like a really easy way to like increase revenue. I think so. Like, what was the product that you guys were creating?
We were a catering company and we had farmers market stands. So we were I was making Texas style barbecue with garlic noodles, like San Francisco style.
So something like that, you know what I mean? It's like teaming up with a wedding company, teaming up with, you know what I mean? Like a food delivery service, like that packages already ready-made meals. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I think about like that kind of stuff where it's like then contracts come in. You know what I mean? And that's when you have to build out your team, and you have to have people that go to places while you're in another place. And I think that's the hard part, is that we see something like Blue Bottle. Like, look at how lucrative Blue Bottle got for coffee. You know what I mean? How did that happen? You know what I mean? I think that's why when you look at these types of businesses that we're starting, like, what makes the most sense economically, and like what is something that has a cheap buy-in that we can sell for a higher price, that then, you know what I mean, like we can team up with other companies and be like, oh, we're using Shared Cultures Miso or something with our noodles this time. Boom, 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 goes to do, you know what I mean? Like, I think like collaborations really do expand the opportunity for like just growth. And but it's hard. It's like, I think it's also like access, man. It's access and what spaces, like,
you're right,
is like one of these companies that you're like, how is this basic ass restaurant just booming? And then it just says a lot to our palates and stuff like that too. It's like people want safety, they want simplicity. So for me, I'm like, no wonder that a burger and fries type place can make so much money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But what does that say for our cultures? You know what I mean? How do we do that for our cultures where the food we make is represented in a way that, like, I mean, like, honestly, the saturated market of taquerias, somehow they all exist. That to me is wild. I'm just like, damn, because you guys fuck with your culture within your culture. And then even white folks and certain other people come in. You know what I mean? So it's like sometimes doubling down on what we are known for, but like expanding it a little bit and just, I don't know, it's like a code to crack, but I think it's also finding the support of people that want to be investors that don't necessarily need anything back.
Yes. Yeah.
I think we got to start talking about that as like
philanthropists.
Yep. I think sometimes investing isn't necessarily the best thing, you know what I mean? Like, or like investing should be thought of in a different way, like maybe giving away, like being like, I want to see you successful and this is what it takes for you to be successful. There you go.
Yeah.
That's what I need. You know what I mean? Transparency.
Yeah.
I don't think we get to have those like transparency conversations where it's like, damn, dude, how long is it going to take you guys to pay back that loan? Like, all right, well, the restaurant's already in its like 10th year. Like, nobody's made money yet, but y'all are going on trips and shit. That's weird. Like, that's interesting. Someone's doing all right. Someone's still paying their rent. You know what I mean? Like, these models just don't, because I've worked in co-op grocery stores and stuff too, and seeing that, like, the division of wealth, how that works, and how seniority and types of things like come into play. And I think the models just have to change. Is like the amount of work you put in has to match a certain like time you've been there cap. But then maybe there's other models of like investing that carry you further. So you don't like necessarily be like, well, I've been here 100 years and I get paid this times this much because the minimum wage. So I'm like a super employee. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's got to be changes within these structures that like, they seem kind of easy to me that like, yeah, I think it's all coming. Like, I have some friends out in Vermont, Calce Wine, and they're doing that with their like idea of how to like create co-op partnerships and things like this. And I think that's going to be the future, is like co-op working, and how do we all like team up in neighborhoods and think about it, it's like that much more time is given to you than to not have to be at a business if you're doing it with others. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Co-ops, collaborations. I mean, you're right. Prosperity is attainable for everybody, as long as, you know, we're able to rethink systems and institutions in place that are willing to agree in the same way.
Well, and I think we have to figure out what's our baseline.
Yeah.
Like, what is my comfort baseline? And I think when we live in a city that literally people are driving around Teslas, Rivians, Polestars, you know, Lotuses, all these different fancy ass cars, but then you see the house that's attached with it, and then you see the way that people care and how they treat people. It's like, just because you have those things doesn't mean you get to treat other people like shit, and it doesn't mean you get to think that you're better than anyone. Like, it's literally right time, right place. And it may not be forever. So it's like, I think what capitalism teaches people is like, okay, I got this shit now, who cares about everybody else? Like, I'm gonna use it and abuse it until I don't have it anymore. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's like kind of like the white lady walking down a street where she's clutching her purse. You know what I mean? Like, scared when she sees someone of color or like something unsafe, and you're just like, but really, dude, just like, honestly, if you don't clutch your purse, you're probably not gonna get hurt either. Like, whatever's in there isn't more important than your life.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, why are you walking? I see it with like giant ass wedding rings and shit like that too, where I'm just like, do you really feel comfortable walking around the city with like a $20,000 diamond on your finger? Do you understand there are people that don't have anything, and you are one of the reasons why they don't? Like, and people will be like, what do you mean that I'm part of the reason? It's like, your job allowed you to move here to be able to purchase a house in a neighborhood where you were not from, that displaced somebody else. and you wonder why people look at you sideways. But you're looking at them being like, what the fuck are you doing here? And they're like, I live here. You moved here. You do not respect me or understand what I've been doing to try and survive here. I get to work for the city while you get to work for a company that sells online t-shirts. You know what I mean? Or something weird like that, or digital ad space. Like, and you're like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like, who cares? And like, but for some reason, that baseline is never thought about of like, how can what would I have to feel like to want to have to steal something? Or do I steal even if I have 200 grand in my bank account? Do I still take from other people? What am I taking? Is it a parking space? Do I cut in front of people? Am I not opening doors? Do I not say hello? You know what I mean? Like, it's this idea of like, we all have something to give. You know what I mean? If you're that well up, man, like, kick some of that dough down, but also kick down some happiness and be nice. You know what I mean? If we had more nice rich people, shit, it'd start to feel a lot better.
Yeah. Plant some seeds.
As simple as that, bro. Like, it's like connections. Being like, hey, I necessarily don't know how I can help, but like, I work for this company that we have a branch where we like to do philanthropy, or we want to figure out how we can help in our community. If you have ideas, come talk to us. But you don't see people really going out of their way to like be that person. You know what I mean? So that's what I hope to do, is like inspire people to be like, if you're just sitting around, you're not being helpful. If you are not making this the best city in America and in the world somehow, then you're not being helpful. Like, I challenge you to do something tight that would make this like something where your legacy is like, boom, homie created a summer program for kids from all different networks where they figured out how to like mingle and talk, and now these are kids that are helping other kids get into Stanford and Berkeley. Like, high school kids are teaching each other how to get into Berkeley and Stanford.
Yeah.
They hacked the system, bro. They're studying for SATs together from different backgrounds. You know what I mean? They're learning rap lyrics and they're learning stats and boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? And like that kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Imagine that, bro.
Appreciate that. Yep.
That would be powerful, man. Like, you know what I mean? I talked to some kids at June Jordan recently, and I let them know. I asked them, I was like, who all in here knows how to code? And it was like 30 kids. 3 of them raised their hands. You know, and it was funny. I was like, you 3 right now have the potential to make the most money out of all your classmates, possibly. And I was like, but if you bust down this knowledge to all of your other classmates, you guys have a firm. I was like, you guys develop an app. You make that app, you sell it for like $1 million, $2 million. Boom, you guys pay each other. I was like, then you start working on your second app. I was like, boom. I was like, look at that. I was like, you guys have like a business already. You know what I mean? Like, and they just started looking, and I was like, damn, bro. Like, they were like, you're right. I was like, how much do flowers sell for on Mission Street? And they're like, they're expensive. I was like, yeah, you ever see the old ladies with like roses?
Yeah.
I was like, cut flowers are expensive. I was like, you guys have land right here. If you grew flowers, cut them, wrapped them in paper, and wrote June Jordan on them, you could pull at the heartstrings of all these people out there, and you could be doing the same thing. And they're like looking at business, and I'm just like, nobody ever told you like that. Nobody ever told you that you can make money like that, like business.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think we got to be inspiring our youth. And some of these people that understand PR and marketing, bust that shit down. Explain what your actual job is. Help other people. Because if we all are marketing and doing things well, isn't that like what the American economy is supposed to be? Is like everyone doing well? Or are some people supposed to do well and some people are not, you know?
Yeah.
Why are secrets kept?
Yeah. Or why can you only buy information with money?
Exactly.
You know?
No, seriously.
Yeah.
I think about that. I think that if you have an education and you already have time and access, that you should be giving that shit away.
Yeah.
If you went to Stanford, why are you going to make someone else go to Stanford? You're just going to pay Stanford. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's also, you know, the time that we live in has never been better for that type of free information to be roaming around. And I think people just need to go out there and get it too. Well, that's not to say that there's not information that you still can't pay for and people are charging for, but...
Oh, no. Yeah. YouTube is a beautiful thing, man. Google's a beautiful thing. But then you think about these colleges literally could be opening up their doors.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's a racket too.
For free. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you think about what they're doing to help the poverty gap, like the wealth gap, like you're not doing much. Like all you'd have to do is like be like, we're letting in a third of people this year free who are under this like economic thing. And it has to be like verified. You know what I mean? Because we see rich people still sneaking their kids into school.
Yeah, who's that alumni fund for? Is it for more rich people to go to college for cheap, or you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like if you really want the wealth gap to like shift, make it to where other people can start doing better. And like that's in our country is an educational system because we focus everything on degrees. Even if you have a fucking degree, you're not going to get the job necessarily because everybody is trying to get that one job. Yeah. It's scary. Like, it's such a scary situation when you think about it, and no one's guiding our youth into how to actually, like, use that college time and turn it into money. But that's why I think the food and beverage space are, like, no-brainers. We have to eat and drink every single day. You know what I mean?
It's never going to be a scarcity.
It's never going to be a scarcity, bro. Yeah. Everybody's going to have to, like, eat, drink. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to have to do those things or we die. You know what I mean? Like,
but I'm 100% with you when you say, let's teach people how to fish. Let's teach people how to, like, you know, use the land as something that can give back to you for the work that you put into it.
It's powerful.
Reciprocity, right?
It's the most powerful thing.
But yeah, I think we have only only time for one more. Because I know you got to be on your way, and I respect your time, and thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
Yeah. Last idea from the book that I would like to share with you and everybody listening is the quote is, for all of us, becoming indigenous to a place means living as if your children's future mattered, to take care of the land as if our lives, both material and spiritual, depended on it. And as you, who is somebody who is living this way, aspires to do more for not just yourself, but for others, what can you say that people might be able to do to bring this type of mindset into their lives? How to awaken it? What's the first step?
So, I mean, if I had the money and the funds, I would buy a billboard in the city, and I would literally make it say, "Welcome to San Francisco, the home of everybody treating each other nice, the place where everybody says hi, the place where nobody talks shit about each other. We are a loving community, a happy community, and a community where everyone can learn together and thrive." You know what I mean? Something like that, where like when people drive by it, they're like, "Am I doing that? Damn, like, you know." And it might also say something like, "We're watching you." You know what I mean? Like, no, seriously. Like, I think we got to have more eyes on the prize, and the prize is everyone coming up together, nobody being under. You know what I mean? Like, I think when I say this place is a village, we really do live in a small-ass city, and it's major, though. So it's like we all moved here because we like human interaction in some capacity. We all want ease of finding food and mates and housing and security. So if we all moved here for those same reasons, it should be more of an oasis rather than like this downtrodden like fight. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel cool to watch some people suffer while you're okay. That means you have to have like security gates and fences and stuff like that. And you know, we talk about homeless people like as if they're an actual issue, and it's like those are all people's children. It's not like they just were like created out of nowhere, thin air. Those are family members of somebody, and mental illness and poverty are real things. So we have to like realize that our elders are important and our youth are important, and that we have to make them feel cared and safe. You know what I mean? Like, the elders are watching, and they've done a lot of work to make sure that we're all okay. If we're doing bad things like forgetting about people, forgetting them, destroying our earth, they're gonna die sad. You know what I mean? And if we are showing our youth that, they're gonna grow up hopeless. Or they're gonna grow up torn and thinking that everything is divisive and that we're not supposed to actually work together. It's up to us right now to show the youth to be able to work together. You know what I mean? And for the elders to be able to die in peace, being like, this is all we asked for. This is what we want. You know what I mean? Maybe some people don't want that, but then that's like the same thing. It's like, at that point, do we really care what they want? Like, if it's not good, then we maybe need to like stop worrying so much about hurting people's feelings. And I think at this point in life, if you were a reasonable human, you understand the difference between good and bad when treating people a certain way. You understand you wouldn't like to be checked at the door for what race you are, how much money you have in your pocket, who you work for. That's as simple as it gets. It's like, if you don't want to be treated that way, you never treat anyone else that way. You know what I mean? And if you have an abundance of wealth or knowledge, you should practice giving it away. You should practice helping other people with it until we're all in a position that we don't have to do that we all just share dinners together, that we all are fishing and cooking together and hanging out as families and not locking our doors again because we all care about each other and we want to be around each other. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that long ago that people fought to have human rights just for like voting, just for being able to use the same water fountains. And people think we're so far away from it. It's like, no, we're only like 50 years out. You know what I mean? Like 60, 70 years ago, people were like scared. You know what I mean? They're still scared. Like during George Floyd, man, people were getting lynched. So until we reach a point where people are going to say that is not okay, and like we're not going to like tolerate this, and not a no violence way, but like no, we're not into this. Like, you know what I mean? Like until those types of people are like shown that love is a better situation rather than hate, and that like their leaders are teaching them that like scarcity mindset is just as sad looking for them too, you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to be okay. So that's why like I think that we have to work really hard to let everybody know that like, if you like being on your boat and casting out and reeling a fish in, there's somebody else out there that looks completely opposite than you that would probably enjoy that moment too. Or at least appreciate you teaching them the skills to do it, you know what I mean? And like where we live in the Bay Area, man, it's such a beautiful space that we literally can all be learning from different people of different cultures, of different farming, hunting, like just money-making practices. Like, you know, we live in a world-class, multi-diverse city that like really should be put back on the map for different things rather than just tech, but more of like community and how inspiring we can be, you know? Like those companies have a lot of pull and how big they are and how inspiring they are for that. Like people want to be like Jeff Bezos, they want to be like Mark Zuckerberg, but I hope more people want to be bigger than that. You know what I mean? Like, like bigger in a sense that like, it'd be crazy if the first billionaire came out of this place that was like, hey man, I live in a van and I just give it all away.
Right. And I think you're totally right. Spot on that, is that these companies are powerful. They don't know how powerful they are in shaping the culture around us. But, you know, a lot of people get marginalized and forgotten about along the way. And a shift in consciousness needs to happen. And I'm very thankful there's people like you who have a very unique perspective on life.
Well, you know, I'll say one last thing. You know, what's funny is like we all have it in us. Like that's the thing is like when people say they don't see color, I thought about it the other day and I think I might make a shirt that says like, I don't see cars, and then it says color on the cars, and it's like a person getting hit by a car. Right. Because it's like, imagine if nobody saw cars. Like, oh my God, like that would be like such a weird thing that, like, you know what I mean? That statement, I don't see color, is like so loose that people are like, and it means so much. It means that like, I just see everyone the same and that no one's different and I'm not racist. But it's like, yeah, if you don't see cars, you're going to get run over and like trampled and you won't be alive. You know what I mean? And it's an obvious thing to look both ways. And like when you look at people, it's the same situation. It's like you don't see color, because that's what's beautiful about us all. Like it's what's the history of this planet is like human migration and how we've all gone all over this world to like collect seeds and spices and like different things that have made our cultures better, things that were brought to our continents and taken away from our continents, and like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think we need to be better at seeing and seeing each other. Yeah,
I love that. That's beautiful, Chris. Thank you so much for just being present with me today and sharing all your ideas. I learned a lot, and I hope we can do this again sometime if the time allows.
Oh, of course, man.
Yeah.
We'll make it happen.
Cool, man. I'm officially going to bring this to a close. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please check out all the links to the 280 Project online, where you can donate, reach out to Chris, as well as additional links that we mentioned in the episode on thequakecityportal.com. Follow Chris on Instagram at 280Project. That's the 280 Project on Instagram. Check out the show notes. There's so many things that we mentioned in this episode that deserve another peek and more research to go into. Everybody needs to learn about these things, and from there we can develop our own ideas. And if you like this conversation, please reach out. Let us know on our social media links, also linked on thequakecityportal.com. Is there something you want to share that this podcast can help you materialize, whether it's through film, writing, or audio storytelling? Please reach out to me and let's build something, and tell us how we're doing. And other than that, if you've been with us for this long, we're almost a year in, heading into November. So thank you so much for making this. I don't even know what to call it. It's just a labor of love, and such a blessing to be sitting with all these people that choose to spend their time with us and share their stories. And I hope to do it more so in the future. So with that, it's been fun so far, more to come in the future. And thanks again for writing it out this long.